I've heard this many times. They don't deserve that. Yeah, they may be good people from the common understanding of what a good person is, but the truth is, we all deserve hell. All have sinned and fallen short. All have sinned and fallen short. Luke continues to say how that the blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed. Matthew just says, the blind receive their sight. The word how is not there. I'm not going to lie, I like the way Luke writes it. It's very condensed. It's more simplified, at least for this first line. How that the blind see, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, deaf hear, dead are raised, to the poor, the gospel is preached. Notice how he doesn't say, to the poor, all of your money is given to them. He says that to the rich young ruler, specifically to that guy, but here he's saying to the poor, this is general, the gospel is preached. That's a lesson. Anyway, in Matthew, he says it a bit differently. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised up, the poor have the gospel preached to them. Pretty much the same thing. Just a few extra words here and there. Instead of the blind see, it's the blind receive their sight. The lame walk, that's good. The lepers are cleansed. That's how I like it. The deaf hear. The deaf hear. The dead are raised without the extra word up. It seems to fit more in that tempo that has been set. Problem, solution, problem, solution. You don't need all these extra words explaining it. The poor have the gospel preached to them. To the poor, the gospel is preached. I like that more because, again, to the poor, that's the problem. Answer, gospel is preached. Instead of, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. It kind of breaks the tempo. In that sense, can I keep the tempo without cutting out important words? How that the blind see, or the blind receive their sight. Receive their sight, or the blind see. I know I like to go with all the words, but like I'm saying, the tempo is much cleaner in Luke than it is in Matthew. And I'm leaning towards just saying the blind see instead of receive their sight. I really want that, but I think I have to put all the words just because they're there, and I don't want to cut anything out. It would be really easy if you're trying to memorize this verse to just have it say, as it goes in Luke, the blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and to the poor, the gospel is preached. That would be so clean, but I think I have to have all these words. The blind receive their sight. Is that really that important? They receive their sight instead of just they see? I don't know. It seems like the same. Is there more meaning in receiving your sight from being blind? Sight has been given to you, as opposed to just going from blind to seeing? I guess there could be a theology on that. You were blind and you were given sight. Sight is a blessing. You don't deserve sight. It's not like you're getting back to what you've deserved, or you're now receiving what you've earned. It's a gift. Okay, in that sense, yeah, it is important to say receive their sight, because it's true. What do we all deserve? We don't deserve to see and to have a good life and to be happy. No, that's what a lot of people, worldly people, say. You deserve the best. Never. No one deserves the best. We all deserve to go to hell. And the fact that we have peace, joy, the ability to see, feel, taste, hear, enjoy life and blessing, those are all gifts. We do not earn that. Those are gifts. And praise God, it's possible. And we do earn payment for our work, but that's just between man and man. There's nothing that we earn from God. Definitely not salvation. I know that in heaven there is reward that we earn for good works, but that's totally separate from salvation. But here on earth, we do not deserve a good, happy life or success. even if it's commonly experienced by everyone. Like sight. We don't deserve sight. No, that's a gift. Okay, in that sense, I think it is important to keep these words from Matthew. Luke goes, how that the blind. Matthew says, just the blind. So I'll stick with Luke, how that, and then the words the blind are both. Matthew only. Receive their sight. Very important. This is one of the reasons why I'm so glad I'm going through the Gospels this slowly, because I know I've read these verses from Matthew and Luke dozens of times throughout my life, but I've never compared the two that closely, and I've never thought that much on the difference between just going from blind to seeing or from being blind and receiving sight, and now I've actually gained a better understanding. I already understood that the good we experience is a blessing. It's not something we earn. And I hear it all the time from people, like someone is mistreated and then their friend or husband, wife, children, parents, I've heard this many times, they don't deserve that. Yeah, they may be good people from the common understanding of what a good person is, but the truth is, we all deserve hell. All have sinned and fallen short. Heaven is perfection. God's presence is perfection. He demands perfection. That's why we need Jesus covering to be accepted in His sight. So whenever someone says they don't deserve that, it's just not true. Sorry. No. We all deserve to go to hell. This is an important truth. Now Luke. The blind see, the lame walk. That's in Luke. Matthew says, and the lame walk. I want to say just the lame walk. That and is not necessary. And the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed. And the deaf hear. He says and a lot. The blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised. Luke doesn't use and at all. That keeps the tempo going. I like that. So because of that, I think I'm going to cut out this and. Would that be wrong? I'm keeping the important words, receive their sight. But this and, I don't think that's important. No, I'm just going to skip it. The lame walk. The lepers are cleansed. That's from Luke. Now from Matthew, the lepers are cleansed. Okay, it's the same. The lepers are cleansed. Matthew, and the deaf hear. Luke says, the deaf hear. Okay, for the same reason, I'm going to skip the and just go with the deaf hear. I will explain in the addresses that I'm going this short section from Matthew, skip the word and, that section from Matthew. So I'm not going to lie and just say this is from this point to that point. I'll be clear about it. From Matthew, the deaf hear, the dead are raised up. Luke, the dead are raised. And I think you already know what I'm leaning towards. The dead are raised. Raised already means from a lower point to a higher point, so I don't think it's necessary to add up. Plus, it messes with the tempo, so I'm just going to cut that out. The dead are raised. Actually, I don't know about that, because and is just a connecting word. Up is more of an explanation. No, I'll keep the word up. It's way more important than the word and. Or like at the beginning of a verse, when it says, then Jesus did this. Or in another book, it'll say, and Jesus did this. They're the same. It doesn't matter. Those words can be interchanged, but this word raised up, or just raised, it's pretty much the same, but it's, I don't know, it's just got a little bit more importance to it, so I'll just keep it. And the poor. Luke says, to the poor the gospel is preached. Matthew says, the poor have the gospel preached to them. Preached to them is equivalent to saying to the poor the gospel is preached. So it's pretty much the same. To but saying have the gospel preached to them, or to the poor the gospel is preached. Have is equivalent to is. The pattern is that there's a group of people who have some kind of ailment, and then after you're mentioning the ailment that the person has, you're mentioning the response. The answer, the lepers are cleansed. The deaf hear. So in this sense, I think it might make better systematically equivalent sense to continue with the way it says in Matthew. The poor. And then the answer, have the gospel preached to them. Instead of the way it's mentioned in Luke, to the poor, because that's a portion of the answer. To the poor, then back to the answer, the gospel is preached. I'm going to go with the way it says in Matthew. The poor, have the gospel preached to them. So I'm skipping the word to in Luke. The poor, that's still the same from both. Have is only in Matthew. Have the gospel. The gospel is both. The gospel. Now I'm not saying is because I'm using the word have. So preached. Not is preached, but just preached. So I'm skipping is from Luke. I'll mention then the addresses, going right into the word preached from both. And then to them. To is in Luke. It's in a different place, so I'll say it's from both, but it's from the order of Matthew, and then the word them is only in Matthew. Next, the final verse, Luke reads, and blessed is he, Matthew, and blessed is he, whosoever shall not be offended in me. Luke says, whosoever shall not be offended in me. Okay, it's the same. And blessed is, he is in italics in Luke. It's also in italics in Matthew. He, common both. Whosoever shall not be offended in me. Whosoever shall not be offended in me.